Hey guys, welcome or welcome back. Thanks so much for joining me today. Today we're going to be speaking to the epic legend that is Kelly Brown, newborn photographer extraordinaire, and a whole host of other things too. We're not going to waste too much time with the introduction, so it's probably best that we just get stuck in. Kelly, could you just introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are, where you come from, and what you do?
I can. I don't think I've ever been called epic before. And if my kids heard anyone call me that, they'd probably be like, "My mum? No way." Um, but yes, I am Kelly Brown. I live in Brisbane, Australia. I've been a photographer for nearly 20 years. And yeah, I mean, in terms of my brands, I've got Kelly Brown Online, which is an online education platform. I have another website called newbornposing.com, which provides resources, downloadable resources for photographers. And then I own a multi-purpose studio facility in Brisbane, and that's hired out. It's called Spine Street Studios, and that's hired out to production companies that film TV commercials. Oh my gosh, they film anything and everything in there. Really, it's as I said, it's a multi-purpose space. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. Like you said, not everyone loves running their own business. And I find, you know, being in contact with a lot of photographers every week and listening to their stories and their challenges, I know that business is hard. No one sort of teaches you a lot of the things that you've got to do in business, at school or just in life in general. So you sort of like, you're diving into this world of photography because it gives you such a creative outlet, and then all of a sudden you're faced with all of these responsibilities as a business owner, and the pressure can be really great. And you've it's not just the pressures of running a business, it's your family members and the time that it takes away from them, but also the money that it takes out of the family income to be able to purchase a lot of the expensive tools that we need. And so sometimes we get those guilt sort of feelings as well of, spending money on equipment especially when we're first starting out, because we're not earning enough money to pay for them. So, there's a lot of pressure coming in from all different directions. And obviously, other family members like mums, mums are very good at it, saying, "Wouldn't it be better if you went and got another job?" Um, to be able to help provide for your family. So, my mum said the same thing. Um, and it's hard to keep going if you don't have someone there to motivate and encourage you, to show you that it's actually, it's okay. Like, you're doing okay. And you're not supposed to know everything. You don't know what you don't know. And a lot of what you will learn through making mistakes is what's going to make you succeed in the long run. And there is no finish line either when you run a business. Everything changes, everything evolves all the time in terms of you know your responsibilities legally as well. Like, that's always, you've got to continually keep up to date with all of that, and so on. So yeah, but I think my mum said to me last year, "Are you okay? Are you doing okay financially? Are you okay?" I'm like, "Mum, you really have no idea what I do you?" I'm like, "If I wasn't doing okay financially, I would be going back to work, but I'm okay. I can put a roof over my family's head. I'm okay."
Oh, I love mums. They're just so cute, aren't they? Oh, bless her. Oh, that's so sweet and
You
caring,
don't
though.
ever stop
I mean,
being
it's
a
sweet
mum.
and caring. So, speaking of mums, you are a mum. You've mentioned that already. That you've mentioned 3 children. Is that
3
correct?
kids. Yeah, just 3.
Okay, and two of them are twins.
Yeah. So I have a daughter, my oldest, and then my twins are boy girl. So two girls and a boy.
I think that's a nice mix. In terms of your children having a mum who is a public figure, if we're being honest, especially in the industry, you travel a lot. You travel a lot. You were in London when we met in London, you go over to America, you travel everywhere. How do you manage that on a work-life balance situation for the kids, but also for other family life at home?
Yeah, it's been um it has been challenging in the past with my kids, but when I mentioned earlier that my husband came to work with me in the business. So I have a studio now, which I've had for 6 years, but prior to that, I always worked out of my home. So I was always home, which was really important for me. So when it did come time for me to travel, you know, their dad was always here with them. So there was always a parent constantly with them. And I would be more homesick than they were homesick for me, if that makes sense. So I would ring up and they'd be like, "Hey, mum," and then they'd be gone. They like the time would fly for them, and it was like sometimes they didn't even realize I was gone. But Australia is unfortunately so far away from a lot of places that I lose like a full day when I travel. So it it is tough traveling, and I've also been really fortunate to be able to take my kids with me on a lot of trips. So they've traveled the world, literally traveled the world. And I decided to do that when they were young in primary school because I knew that it wouldn't impact their studies too much. In high school, obviously, taking long extended periods of time off school wouldn't be great, but my my twins, when they were 7, like, we did this and my oldest was 10, we did this massive trip. We did, like, 8 countries in 8 weeks, and I went to the school and I was like, planning this big trip, and I was obviously teaching in 6 of the 8 countries, and I said, I really want to be able to take my family with me." And they thought that it was incredible. They thought it was brilliant because it would teach them so many life skills and then obviously travel the world and get to see the world. So they actually really encouraged it. And it was probably one of the best periods, of my time traveling in terms of all those years that I did spend traveling. And I say that like that now because it's been 3 years, and when I went to London recently in March, it was the first trip I'd done overseas in 3 years, so I feel like it's a lifetime ago now, all of that travel, and the fact that they're older, like my daughter is now going overseas without me next week, so it's all changing really. The dynamics of everything as they get older are changing, but yeah, like my kids are they've always been a big part of my business. And I've always shared everything that I'm doing with them. I used to run an event called the Baby Summit, and they would be there as helpers. I've spoken at other events and they've come and handed water out, things like that. Obviously, if they're going to interfere or cause problems or anything like that, then they wouldn't be allowed to be there. But I think it's really important for kids to see how, just see what you can create, what you can achieve when you put your mind to it. And I know that mine have that within them because they've watched me do it. And I encourage them to obviously, find what it is that they love, and I know that they're not supposed to know at a young age either, that it's okay to explore different options and try different things to see what it is that you love. Like my youngest daughter, she wants to be a tattoo artist. She's never tried it, but at the moment, that's kind of like the thing. So I'm like, I don't have a tattoo on me. I'm like, you're not going to practice on me. But if that's what you wanna do, you go for it, and, my son, he wants to play professional rugby. If that's what he wants to do, then he knows to do that, he's gotta work really hard because he's watched me work really hard, and we have those conversations about being able to reach a certain level. And then my oldest daughter, she's doing hairdressing, but she's also becoming like a nail art technician as well, and that's her creative outlet. So it's great to just encourage them to kind of find their own little thing and for them to watch that. In terms of social media, they hate that I have more followers than they do. And
I think
they've
it,
learnt
it's
very
it's
quickly what you put out there stays out there.
yeah, good. That's something that I learned as a teenager as well myself. I think it's so interesting that you have two creative, very creative daughters that are looking to do something creative, and I think that that's so neat that it's like come full
Yeah.
circle down the family tree in that respect. And I'd say sports are creative as well in a certain way. So I think the whole
Oh,
family is just
absolutely.
very creative.
Yeah, well, I played it, like, at a national level, netball and basketball when I was younger. So sport was huge for me. Like, when I was at school, I was going to play netball for Australia. That was my goal. I was going to make the Australian team, and that's all I ever wanted to do until I was seriously injured. So playing netball, that put my career, my sport career on a back burner, but I used to train for like 5 hours a day. So I suppose that dedication and commitment towards something in terms of it paying off is huge as a business owner, because every day you gotta get up, you gotta do the work. And he is also, quite the little entrepreneur, like, in the Christmas holidays, because that's when we have our summer holidays. We have like 7 to 8 weeks off. He started a little landscaping business with his best friend, and they were working every day and getting paid more an hour than I used to get paid, so at that age, but, they did very well. They profited very well out of that.
I think that's so sweet. That is really interesting. I think it's so true in terms of, and especially from using the sports as almost an analogy for business. What you were saying about spending all of those hours training, and that you know that as a business owner you have to get up and go and do the work. There is almost an element of the fact that it's an understanding of slow progress, incremental gains, leading to a bigger, wider piece. And I think that sometimes it's quite difficult for some people to see the fact that
Yeah,
it's not going to happen overnight, but if you keep doing the little bits of work, that builds up quite quickly.
absolutely, and that is probably one of the hardest things for people, is that they, especially when they're sharing their photos, you would have seen it, Jess, when you see people share their photos and they're like, "I'm so disappointed. I feel so, you know, um, like, deflated because my work doesn't look like, or I'm not getting the results that I really wish that I could have." And I look at some people today, and the progress that they make in 6 to 12 months is insane, because they have access to so much information. Like, I remember in those first few years that I was taking photos, I literally like, it was terrible seeing there was very little progress over a long period of time. And, because you didn't have, online places to be able to share your photos, or, you didn't have any online education. And I would literally buy photography magazines. I would sit down with them, and I'd go to the editing section, and I would run through all the steps, and I would just practice them over and over again and teach myself. So it was a challenge, but as you say, like, if you want something, you'll find a way to do it, but it's getting up and knowing that if you do the work, you are one step closer to reaching your goals. If you get up and you procrastinate, if you get up and let doubt sort of creep in and stop you, prevent you from doing anything because, you don't feel good enough, or it's a waste of your time, then you won't reach your goals. It's having that little bit of faith and having the discipline within yourself to be able to go, do you know what? I've got a task that I've got to get done, or I've got something that I want to achieve in the next month, or, by the end of this year, I want to be doing such and such. It's knowing what it is that you want to achieve, so that when you get up each day, you've got something to work towards.
I didn't want to say anything whilst you were going through that, because that was the most perfect segment to take out, because I feel like we need to post that with the gif for preaching, like preach, because that was so perfect. And I think that everybody needs to hear that. So that was fantastic. Thank you so much, Kelly.